Most truckers leave their CB radios on after midnight. That's the mistake. Because on certain Texas highways, Channel 19 doesn't just pick up other drivers. It knows who you are. It knows where you're going. And sometimes, it says your name before you ever touch the microphone. What happened on Route 54 near Van Horn wasn't a signal glitch or radio interference. It followed one driver across empty desert miles, and it's still waiting for the next voice to answer back. The headlights that never passed. US 90. Near Langtree, US 90 west of Langtree is the kind of road people forget exists. No billboards, no radio signal worth listening to. Just long, empty desert stretching so far that headlights feel like they're floating in space rather than attached to vehicles. Locals don't drive it after midnight unless they absolutely have to. Truckers do it because they're paid to ignore instincts. On that night, just after 12:40 a.m., traffic was non-existent. The sky was clear, the moon low, and the road ahead looked endless. Two narrow lanes cutting through scrubland and rock. The air was still enough that the engine noise carried farther than usual, bouncing off nothing, coming back wrong. That was when the headlights appeared. At first, they were far back. Twin white dots in the rearview mirror, low to the ground, steady, nothing unusual. Texas highways at night are built for patience. Vehicles show up eventually. The odd thing was how long they stayed there. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The headlights never got closer, never drifted left or right, never dimmed or flared. They stayed at the same distance, the same height, the same position in the mirror, as if pinned to the road itself. Speed didn't matter. When the car slowed, they slowed. When it accelerated, they followed. Still behind, still unchanged. After 20 minutes, unease set in. Not fear yet, just the quiet awareness that something wasn't behaving correctly. Real drivers drift. They adjust. They pass when given the chance. These headlights did none of that. The driver tested it, slowed almost to a crawl. The headlights stayed. Then the driver sped up sharply, pushing well past comfort. The headlights stayed. No engine noise, no wind shift, just two lights, locked in place. The first real fear came when the driver used the turn signal and pulled halfway onto the shoulder, giving the mysterious vehicle a clear lane to pass. Nothing happened. The headlights remained directly behind, hovering where a car should be, but never moving forward. That's when the mirror flickered. Just for a second, the headlights vanished. Relief came instantly, and then confusion because the road behind was completely empty. No lights, no tail lights disappearing into the distance. Nothing. Then the headlights reappeared. Closer this time. Too close. They weren't white anymore. They had a dull, yellowed glow, uneven, like old bulbs burning through fog. The reflection in the mirror showed no grille, no windshield. Just light, floating where a vehicle should be. The driver felt pressure in the ears, like a sudden change in elevation. The radio crackled to life without being touched. Static layered with something underneath it, a low pulsing rhythm that matched neither the engine nor the road. Then the headlights split, not left and right, up and down. One lifted higher than the other, tilting, as if whatever was behind the car was leaning. The driver didn't look again. Hands locked to the steering wheel, eyes fixed forward. The road felt narrower than before, closing in, the darkness thicker, almost textured. A mile marker passed, then the same mile marker passed again. The GPS froze. The speedometer needle trembled. The sense of motion became unreliable, like the car was moving but the world wasn't. Then, without warning, the headlights surged forward, not to pass, to merge. The light flooded the interior of the car from behind, bending at impossible angles, filling the cabin without a source. Shadows stretched the wrong way. The driver felt watched from inside the vehicle itself. And then, silence. No lights, no pressure, no static. The road returned to normal. The next town appeared 15 minutes later, exactly where it should have been. Gas station lights, a closed diner, reality back in place. But when the driver checked the rearview mirror one last time, there were faint yellow reflections on the glass, as if something had been sitting there for a very long time. The man standing in the turning lane. Highway 285. Outside Pecos, Highway 285 south of Pecos doesn't feel like a road so much as a long, exposed stretch of obligation. It exists to be crossed, not visited. There are no trees tall enough to block the wind, no curves to break the monotony, and no reason to stop unless something has gone wrong. At night, the desert presses in from both sides, flat and endless, swallowing sound and distance until everything feels farther away than it should be. Just after 1:20 a.m., traffic was almost non-existent. A few semis had passed earlier, but by then the highway had gone quiet. The sky was moonless, and the darkness felt heavy, as if the road lights were struggling just to stay on. About 12 miles outside Pecos, the highway widens briefly near an old service road intersection. There's a faded turning lane in the center, paint cracked, reflectors missing, barely visible unless headlights hit it just right. It's meant for vehicles turning into a ranch access road that hasn't been used in years. That's where the man was standing. At first, the driver thought it was a signpost, something vertical in the road where nothing should be. The headlights caught it late, illuminating a tall, unmoving shape directly in the turning lane. No reflective vest, no warning flares, just a figure standing upright, facing slightly away from oncoming traffic. The driver slowed instinctively. Anyone standing in the middle of a highway at that hour was either in trouble or a threat. As the distance closed, details emerged slowly, reluctantly. The man was tall, thin, wearing what looked like dark pants and a long-sleeved shirt. No jacket, no hat. His arms hung at his sides, hands open, fingers slightly curled as if frozen mid-motion. He wasn't waving for help. He wasn't moving at all. The car drifted slightly to the right lane, giving him space. The driver rolled down the window just enough to shout if needed, but no sound came out. Something about the scene discouraged it, like interrupting would be a mistake. When the car drew parallel, the headlights washed over the man fully. His face was turned just enough to be visible in profile. His eyes were open, not wide, not panicked, just open, staring forward at nothing. The unsettling part wasn't that he didn't react to the approaching vehicle. People freeze under stress. It happens. What made the driver uneasy was the stillness, the unnatural completeness of it. No sway from the wind, no flinch from the engine noise, no blink. As the car passed, the driver checked the side mirror. The man hadn't turned his head. He hadn't followed the car with his eyes. He remained facing the same direction, staring into the dark desert beyond the road. The driver told himself it was shock, maybe a breakdown. Maybe someone wandered out of a stalled vehicle farther down the road. The rational explanations came easily at first. Then the mirror showed something wrong. The man was closer than he should have been. Not physically closer, spatially wrong. His position in the mirror didn't match the speed of the car pulling away. He wasn't shrinking into the distance the way people do when left behind. He remained oddly prominent, centered in the mirror longer than physics allowed. The driver accelerated. The man remained visible. Then, slowly, impossibly, the figure turned his head. Not toward the car, toward the mirror. His face was fully visible now, illuminated by diminishing light. Pale, expressionless, mouth slightly open, as if mid-breath, but no vapor escaped into the night air. And then he smiled. It wasn't wide, it wasn't exaggerated. It was small and precise, like a gesture practiced many times. The driver looked away. Heart pounding, hands tight on the wheel, the driver focused on the road ahead, repeating internally that it was nothing. Fatigue, night driving, the brain filling in gaps where it shouldn't. When the mirror was checked again, the turning lane was empty. Relief came fast and sharp, followed immediately by embarrassment. The driver laughed once, breathless, shaking off the moment. That was when the headlights ahead illuminated something else. Another turning lane. This one hadn't been there before. The GPS didn't show an intersection. The road map displayed nothing but straight highway for the next 20 miles. But the reflectors were there, the faded paint, the worn asphalt split, and in the center of it, the man was standing again. Same posture, same clothing, same stillness. Only this time, he was facing the car directly. Both eyes locked forward, waiting. The driver slammed the brakes. The car skidded slightly, tires protesting against asphalt. The headlights flooded the figure, revealing details that hadn't been visible before. His clothes were wrong, too thin for the night air. His shirt clung tightly to his frame as if damp, but there was no visible source of moisture. His skin looked stretched, pulled too tightly across his face, smoothing it unnaturally. And his feet were not touching the ground. He hovered just inches above the pavement, perfectly aligned with the turning lane marker, unmoving despite the sudden stop. The driver threw the car into reverse without thinking. The man didn't react. The car lurched backward, engine whining. The distance between them increased, then decreased. The man began moving forward, not walking, gliding, straight toward the car, maintaining the same height above the road, arms still at his sides, expression unchanged except for the smile, which widened just enough to show teeth that reflected the headlights too brightly. The driver spun the wheel and accelerated hard, swerving around the figure and back into the main lane. As the car passed through where the man should have been, there was resistance, a pressure, like driving through thick air. The car shuddered, lights flickering, dashboard briefly going dark before snapping back to life. In the rearview mirror, the man was no longer standing. He was lying across the turning lane, perfectly straight, arms at his sides, eyes still open, watching. The driver didn't stop again. Pecos appeared eventually, glowing faintly on the horizon. Street lights, civilization. The oppressive weight of the desert lifted slowly, reluctantly. But at the edge of town, where Highway 285 narrows again, the driver noticed something painted on the road. A fresh turning lane, new reflectors, new paint, and for just a moment, a dark shape standing at its center. CB Channel 19 kept saying my name. Route 54, near Van Horn. The driver never reported the incident. He told himself that whatever happened on Route 54 belonged to the night, to exhaustion, to the long empty miles that made people imagine things. But the memory followed him anyway. Every time he reached for the CB microphone on another route, his hand hesitated. Every time static crackled unexpectedly, his stomach tightened. He avoided Route 54 entirely after that second encounter, requested alternate runs, took longer detours. No amount of pay was worth driving that stretch after dark again. Other drivers noticed, but he never explained why. Some roads didn't need stories attached to them. The silence alone was enough. Months later, while fueling up in El Paso, he overheard two older truckers talking about radios acting strange near Van Horn. One mentioned Channel 19. The other nodded and said it always knew more than it should. Neither of them laughed. That night, sitting alone in his cab, the driver powered on his CB just long enough to test it. Static filled the speaker, nothing else. He shut it off immediately, but as he lay back, trying to sleep, he could have sworn he heard something through the wall of the cab. Not a voice, not words, just a faint rhythm, like breathing carried on the wind. He never used Channel 19 again. And somewhere along Route 54, after midnight, the static still waits for someone who remembers their name.